Alright everyone, welcome back to another Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes video with Fat Phil, and today we're going to be taking a look at the STAP kit reveal. It just dropped. It is a new Separatist coming to the game, meant to lift General Grievous. We're going to talk about the good things of this kit, we're going to talk about some of the negatives, and I think one of the problems that it poses for Galaxy of Heroes moving forward. So like and subscribe guys, comment down below. Give me your thoughts. I'd love to hear from you, and let's give a huge shout out to the channel members for all of their continued support. If you're ever interested in joining, that link is down below in the video description, along with a link to the Discord. Both of them are fantastic things. The Discord, obviously, a lot of great, communication, conversations happening there, and of course, to my Wampa and Jedi Master tier members, thank you guys again for continuing to put your faith in me to bring you good content. Let's get in. Let's talk about the STAP. So let's move over to StarWarsGalaxyFears.gg. And let's talk about this kit. I gotta scroll up here. All right, so it is a single trooper aerial platform. I love the ability names, the artwork here, this 2D artwork, it looks so cool. It is a attacker droid separatist with a Grand Arena Omicron to lift General Grievous. Right away, guys, I'm gonna tell you, I don't know that General Grievous really needed a new character to lift that team. I feel like that team is really, really good as is. It's got a Territory War Omicron in Droideka, so if you added an Omicron to, say, B1, B2, or even GG himself, that would have been cool for GAC, but of course that's not going to generate revenue, so we got to add a new character. There's a new mechanic pinned, because any new character in the game now has to have something new. The big thing I want to mention in the inspiration, while the player obtainable version is in the Separatist coloring to match the droids for this Guad, we designed it for General Grievous. We did have the art team make a version in Trade Federation coloring for possible use in upcoming events. That is very important to note. Notice the possible use in upcoming events. So what does that mean? What do those upcoming events stand for? I'm very curious to see what all that means. I'm very excited to see, the future for that. So I am excited for new events. But if it's completely reliant on this new, vehicle, character, whatever we want to call it, because it doesn't have a character. Notice, it doesn't have a vehicle tag. It's not a ship. It's a character. And they even mention that. They say character speed here. So I want you to note that. They talk about that you're going to want to make it really fast, which again, of course, we can't release a character that needs tenacity or potency. Nah, we need to release them with speed, health, and offense. No, just me being picky here. And then the thing I want you to notice here is they talk about this need to recharge, guarantees a one-turn target lock and pinned to the enemy of your choosing when targeting B2 Super Battle Droid. I'm going to talk about why that sentence is a bit misleading. We'll talk about that. But let's get into the character. Let's get into the reveal here. So basic, checkpoint secure, deal physical damage and inflict target lock for one turn. If they already had target lock, instead inflict pin for 2 turns, which can't be copied, dispelled, or prevented. This attack can't be evaded. What I want you to note is that while pinned can't be dispelled or prevented, it does not seem like the target lock is, meets those same requirements, which means that if you have enough tenacity or tenacity up, you may not end up getting target lock on the enemy. This also means that the character attacking also needs to land target lock for you to be able to land pinned. So I'm not overly convinced yet, and you'll see further down why I'm not overly convinced yet about that, pinned landing. Next thing, can't gain, what pin does, you can't gain bonus turn meter, which is huge, and you have 25% less speed. So not only is your speed lower, but now you're not gaining bonus turn meter, and you think of a lot of the teams used to counter General Grievous rely on not just being fast, but turn meter gains as well. The speed, this whole thing does not stack with breach, fracture, or speed down. Next is Die Jedi Dogs. Gosh, what a great name. Deal physical damage to all enemies which can't be evaded by Jedi. Inflict provoked on all enemies for 2 turns, and then you deal damage again to pinned enemies. So here's what I want to note here is that it's inflicting provoked. If you remember, provoked is that red version of the retribution sign, and you basically take damage during out of turn attacks. And they have this FAQ up here where, why are we putting provoked on a team that prevents counterattacks? Well, if you remember, it's effective against a lot of out-of-turn attacks and was chosen for that reason. While there's some anti-synergy with this and General Grievous leader preventing counterattacks, it works quite well against teams that have a lot of assist calls, as provoked targets all out-of-turn attacks and not just counters. So that is a very nice thing, because you do think a lot of the teams that counter General Grievous rely on those out-of-turn attacks. not just things like, think of like your Bad Batch. There's a lot of out of turn attacks there, especially if you're using Omega. The 501st, there's a lot of out of turn attacks. Commander Luke Skywalker, another very popular General Grievous counter, relies on those out of turn attacks. And then even like our King Wampa attacks out of turn. So very interesting to see. Again, my question would be this: in how can Provoked be resisted? Because if they can resist this ability, I'm not sure how potent it's going to be. Next is the Special 2. We need to recharge with a cooldown of 4. Recover 20% health and protection and gain 5 stacks of overcharge, which happens to be the maximum. This can't be copied or prevented. Notice recharge can be overcharge can be dispelled. Target ally attacks, then STAP assists. So this is where I think it gets interesting. So this is where they were talking about that first turn being able to get pinned. If you call B2 to assist, where B2 has a target lock on basic, then you can land pinned, right? Because the enemy already had target lock. And they said an enemy of your choosing. But I'm not yet seeing where this character can ignore taunts to be able to get around a pre-taunt. So think about going up against a Starkiller team where Old Ben begins with taunt, or Juhani begins with taunt. You can't go and target Mara Jade or Emperor Palpatine or Starkiller, whoever, with pinned. It doesn't work that way. So I'm a little bit kind of, and you'll see in the unique, you don't see that either. But I feel like that line is misleading because it's not whoever you want, it's whoever you can target. And that's an important thing to note. Next is the unique 1, which has a Zeta and the Omicron. STAP gains 10 speed for each stack of overcharge on them. So note that this character will get slower as they lose those stacks, and they will lose those stacks. At the start of battle, if everyone is a Separatist droid, whenever an ally inflicts pinned or target lock on an enemy, they also inflict damage equal to 10% of their max health damage to that enemy, which can't be evaded. Now, if I'm reading this correctly, you're inflicting max health damage based on the attacking droid. So B2 inflicting target lock, lots of damage. B1 inflicting target lock is going to do nothing because B1 has a base health of 1. So again, General Grievous will deal a lot of damage with this, but your B1, where you get a lot of those target locks from his special, that's not really helping us here. So I'm kind of, and again, I may be reading that wrong, but the way it sounds is that it's the max health is based on the attacking character's max health and not the, character who's getting damaged, right? Just the way they also inflict damage equal to 10% of their max health to that enemy. That's why I think that it's based on, like B2's max health. Whenever STAP uses an ability other than we need to recharge, they lose a stack. Okay. Whenever STAP or an allied Separatist droid tank takes true damage from an enemy, all Separatist droid allies lose 15% turn meter, limit once per battle. So just think here, guys. Teams that deal true damage, the Bad Batch, Arc Trooper with his turret, right? That's another form of true damage. And there's more, but those two kind of come to mind right away. Outside of Grand, you'll see, like, outside of Grand Arena, you're going to be losing turn meter. And you cannot afford to lose turn meter to those teams. Like, that's just going to ruin you. So then in Grand Arena, and again, everybody's Separatist droid, STAP gains a bonus turn at the start of battle and an additional bonus turn whenever an enemy takes their first turn. Now this is very nice. So right at the start of battle, boom, bonus turn. You get to target somebody with B2 and you can apply pinned. Then they take their first turn, you get to go again. So think that there's going to be a character who you could land pinned on, right? They're going to take a turn and you could put it back on them, right? Because like you're attacking again. So be kind of curious to see how that plays around, what your opening plays are going to be. When STAP gains overcharge, all allies gain 20% max health stacking for the rest of battle and recover 10% health and protection. That's awesome. So right away, boom, your team is going to get 20% extra max health stacking. Think of how important that's going to be on General Grievous being able to ramp that up. The only thing I'm not overly sure on is that it's a cooldown of 4. So if this takes 4 turns, you could start really ramping General Grievous's max health. So 20% is nice. It's kind of like, almost like a more of a unique than anything, right? Like it's a unique ability, but like it's almost like saying, hey, at the start of battle, allies gain 20% max health. Like I feel like that could do the same thing here. And the recovering 10% health and protection is nice. Enemy clone troopers have 30% less offense when they're inflicted with pinned or target lock. Or, yeah, have 30% less offense. So right away, boom. And when they're inflicted with pinned or target lock, they also receive damage equal to 10% of their max health, which can't be evaded. So notice that up here, you're going to deal damage to characters based on, the attacking character's max health. And then if in GAC, if it's a clone, they're also going to get damage equal to 10% of their max health. So you could be potentially dealing a lot of extra damage here to clone enemies. Then finally, Separatist droid allies no longer lose turn meter when STAP or ally Separatist droid tanks take true damage. So, the loss of turn meter here outside of Grand Arena worries me because at what point, is this just a character that we're going to want to use in Grand Arena, and outside of it, we don't need it, right? So before we get into some of this stuff, I do want to give a huge shout out to Meathead for this beautiful artwork that he did. I feel like this looks better than the actual kit. Look at this. This is trash compared to the Mona Lisa down here that is this. I am very much enjoying these. This is a great. I know some people don't always like Meathead, but I feel like this is a really funny thing that he's been doing. I think it's a great way just to interact with the community a little bit. It's the small stuff like this that makes us happy. Let's be honest. So, with all this said, we've got the STAP. It doesn't mean vehicle. So I want to say this. It doesn't have a vehicle tag. Doesn't mean that it can't get added and that we get more vehicles. It's just interesting that they say Trade Federation coloring and that we don't have a Trade Federation tag. So I'd be curious to see if we do get a Trade Federation tag, what that does, what events come up here, what could be coming in the future. So I want to switch over to the game though, because I feel like there's something else that I want to cover here, and that's why I don't think General Grievous really needed, why we didn't need another Separatist. So I'm torn. I think this is going to be a great ship, and again, or ship vehicle, and it is in the game now. I think the marquee event will be coming. Also, just quick side note before we get into that, Keller and Beck is officially farmable. That did just drop. So he's on a hard node. Dark Side 2E, very easy node, 60 energy node. Capital Games doing us a solid, putting him in a very easily farmable location. But let's talk Separatists. So you think you've got your full Geonosian team here, right? Boom, done. Okay, there we go, Separatists. You have the Admiral Trench team, which in my opinion is overhated on, but you have the Admiral Trench team, and then you have the 5 droids you use with GG. Well, now that we're getting the STAP, who gets booted from that team? Well, quite obviously, right? I think very obviously it can't be B2 because they literally call out saying, hey, it'd be a good idea to use B2 because it's going to assist. And on the basic, it inflicts target lock, right? So, you're going to be inflicting target lock there. So I get it, right? Because on the basic for Magna Guard, right, it's a 70% chance, whereas B2, technically it's 100%. And then with B1, again, it doesn't, inflict target lock, right? It's only if the target was target locked. So you have to use the special for that. So that means, in my opinion, in a Grand Arena setting, you're going to kick Droideka to the curb. I feel like Droideka is the one that already gets kicked to the curb. I know for myself, I'm often using Newt Gunray in slot of Droideka to be able to beat certain things. Like this team, you put Newt Gunray in here, you put BB-8, you're beating Sith Eternals, you're beating Starkillers. I've even beaten Iden Versio team with Newt Gunray in here. So I feel like STAP is not only designed in Grand Arena to force you to have to use this team, but I also think it's going to try and get players to invest in a character for the General Grievous team that needs Kyrotech, because this team only needs 400 total Kyrotech, and we know the STAP is going to need 400 minimum because it's a new character. So, yeah, I'm a little bit kind of apprehensive because I feel like 2023 was a great year, and even the start of 2024 with the comeuppance of kind of revitalizing factions that really needed help, bringing together stuff, getting us more use out of our full roster. And then, they do this where you're going to end up kicking a character out of one of the teams. So the only thing I want to say that would make me happy, right? I shouldn't say make me happy, but one thing that would make me happy, is that we have skins for other Separatist droids in the game. Think of General Kalani. Think of the Sniper droid, the Commando droid. There's a whole, you even have the Command droid. I forget what they're called, but those Command droids, right? We've got plenty of other Separatist droids to make another full Separatist droid team. I think that could be really interesting. My only thought there would be, Does it turn into a General Grievous has a ridiculous team, and then like there's 5 droids you're not going to use? Like, I'd be very curious to see that. So I'm cautiously optimistic here. I'm about 50-50. I think the STAP looks great. It was a huge part of the, Phantom Menace 25-year anniversary. So maybe this is kind of shedding light that we're going to get more prequel content, which could be awesome. And especially if we got more Clone Wars content, that would be even better. So I'm going to leave it here, guys. Like, subscribe, comment. I love all you. May the Force be with you, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.